Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Joe Scarice, your founder and host of the Creative Bird Strategies House here on Clubhouse. Also now on live on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. We're here to provide a consistent theme of education, networking, and opportunities. Another great week, yet again, of great education and provision of insight and strategy at some meetings that I provided this past week. So we're going to get into a great subject today, which I think is really important. But first, I'd like to always recognize our sponsors. We obviously always appreciate and love having Yardell Perkins of Perkatech. We have he's our social media strategist and branding specialist and provides all the insight of our social media accessibilities out there on creativebirdstrategies.com. We have MB Capital, our unsecured business line of credit group. We have Abstract National, our national title company, providing title work for real estate investors throughout the country, and Realty 411 with Linda Pelagas. So I want to thank all of them because we really wouldn't be there with them if we didn't have their support. We're the only house here on Clubhouse that provides not just a room every Saturday and Sunday of education and networking, but also worksheets, uh, spreadsheets to better educate yourself as a real estate investor, a podcast where we offer exposure for you and your business through our podcast at creativebirdstrategies.com. And that's live, and we're in the double digits in episodes. And then now we also have live events throughout the country. We have a great Denver event coming up this in March. We also have a Philadelphia event coming up at the Mummer Museum in April. And then we have the LA Relay Expo in the fall. Now I know there's a couple other spotted events that Linda has scheduled and putting together for us. But we really enjoyed the collaboration and the partnership with Realty 411 and Linda with these great events coming up. Really looking excited to seeing some people that we know through Clubhouse and seeing them at some of these events coming up, which would be great. So before we get into our discussion, which I think is a great one, due diligence, property, people, and paperwork. I was sent this article from a young lady that I've become acquainted with through Clubhouse, and I hate to say I told you so, I told you so. Credit Karma is now getting settled out in a $3 million lawsuit because of fraudulent credit reports. If I didn't tell you once, I told you 1,000 times. Credit Karma is the garbage can of all credit report agencies researching your credit. You need to kind of get real with who you are and what you do and work with integrous groups. This $3 million suit that came down from the Federal Trade Commission is no joke. And it obviously is pure evidence of how poor they misrepresent consumers' credit. There's never a dull moment where I don't see issues with credit scores being so bad or skewed based on Credit Karma comparatively to when we pull credit. It's not even in the same ballpark. Please, 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 for the love of God, please look up your credit when you're on My FICO or Experian and pay the $30 and get to know what your credit's like. So I just want to let you know that article was a pretty interesting one. You could Google search Credit Karma settlement. But I want to thank Michelle who sent that to me to take a look at it. Got a quick laugh about it as well. So let's go on to Mortgage News Daily. We always talk about it on Saturdays, but I always want to just kind of rehash. Rates kind of leveled off on Friday about 7.08. They were as high as about 7.25 base rate this week. A lot of home buyer sentiment. Inventory is still very stagnant. Prices have not come down. Rental levels and rental amounts have leveled off in some markets. You got a large influx of rental inventory coming to the market through multifamily development, build to rent conversions right now. So you're seeing a lot of that hitting the market. Some of it's a combination of Section 8 affordable housing or market rent, but in the urban city settings like the Philadelphias of the world, Chicago's, New York's, St. Louis's, those type of urban settings. Right now, Section 8 is settling in as the better look at for the landlord, more so than the affordable housing, more so than the market rent. The market rent is staying very stable. Vacancy is kind of moving up a little bit in times on the market. On the market rents and a lot of these new developments, there's just so many coming to the market. So just keep an eye out on that. And being a landlord, you got to do your due diligence to do your comparatives in understanding your property. So it's getting, it's quite ironic. I did put an article together on LinkedIn on due diligence, property, people, and paperwork strategies this past week, February 21st. So if you want to follow me on LinkedIn or connect with me, I put an article related to this. So we'll talk a little bit about this real quick before we go to our moderators. Performing due diligence when dealing with property, people, and paperwork is crucial to mitigate risk and ensure successful outcomes. Here are some strategies I just want to kind of throw out there, and then we'll get the discussion going. Property to due diligence, like a physical inspection, visiting the property to assess its condition, potential issues, and compliance with regulations. Maybe a legal review, examining property title, zoning laws, environmental assessments, and any liens or encumbrances. A financial analysis, review financial statements, rent rolls, general performance, metrics to assess its values and potential for income generation, and market analysis. Evaluate market trends, compare property sales, forecast to gauge the property's competitiveness and the potential for appreciation. Contractual obligations. Review existing leases, contracts, agreements to understand tenants' responsibilities, rental income, and potential liabilities. People due diligence, background checks. Conduct background checks on key individuals involved in the transaction, such as sellers, buyers, tenants, and contractors, to verify their credentials and identify any red flags. You're seeing a lot more fraud in a very volatile economic market right now. References, legal compliance, conflict of interest, you got to look at to see if there's any arm's length issues there. Professional expertise, engaged with qualified professionals such as real estate agents, attorneys, financial advisors to provide expertise and guidance throughout the due diligence process. There's definitely a legal document review that you need assistance with. Nobody here is an attorney, nor do we play one. Surround yourself with good legal counsel, good CPA. Make sure your documentation organization is in place. If you follow a lot of these strategies, you can conduct a very thorough due diligence across the property, people, and paperwork, and help to avoid mitigation risk and maximize the likelihood of successful outcome in the transactions. Good morning, Joseph. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do. Great seeing you yesterday at the Saturday event we had at the South Jersey RIA. Your thoughts to due diligence, property, people, and paperwork. Joseph?
Good morning. Good morning, Joe. I almost got the Joe 3 countdown. It's very scary when that's happening and very stressful. No, it was good seeing you yesterday. It was a lot of information that you were given to the membership on how asset-based lending happens, DSCR loans. So I know that all appreciated it, and everybody who participated is just that much better getting on with their investing journey and careers with the information that you shared. It just goes to show that your local RIAs are really important, especially if they're education-based like South Jersey RIA. But going on to the people, the process, and the due diligence part, I'm closing on a property this week coming up, and due diligence. You look at it. It was a 1-bedroom condo, so it's okay. It's a 1-bedroom condo, no big deal. Tenant that's been living there for 13 years, no problem. But then, you go and you make an offer based on the verbal of what the realtor tells you that the rent was, and the offer is accepted. You go into contract and they said, "Oh well, time out. It's $200 and change less than what it is." So you start asking for leases, and the owner couldn't produce it. Estoppel agreements were important. There was a disagreement between the owner and the tenant on the security deposit amount. So that was a problem that I had to get through. If I didn't have the estoppel agreement on that, which would have been between the tenant and the current landlord, there's a chance that I may have been out additional money. So it's important to do the due diligence on that. I had to call the housing assistance program because the tenant is receiving assistance and try to get as much information as I could since the lease couldn't be produced because it was needed for the lender. So you always have to do your due diligence. No matter what you're being told and how truthful you believe that it is, you have to verify it. You're making an investment. You're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars at risk, even though you're putting only 20% down. That the rest of that money is hundreds of thousands of dollars at risk, and you absolutely need to do it. When it comes to people, you need to listen to them. People are generally telling you what it is that they want or they like in their conversations, but we're just we've become such a transactional beings, if you will, that everything's like, hey, how are you? Are you really listening to the answer to that person's question? Not really. We just move right along, right? It's just part of a process that we're moving on to the next thing. So you listen to what people's needs are, right? This gentleman's an 80-year-old man who suffered a couple of strokes, and he's looking to give money to his grandchildren. And he put the property on the market. He's not going to look for, seller financing options. So that's just some of the things that I can share, Joe.
So from our class yesterday, Joe, what did you see where people were trying to get around? What did you notice? What was the biggest thing that popped? And we were there for 3 hours, right? We had a very deep conversation in the whole process of understanding the differences between traditional lending, hard money, asset-based lending. Where do you think due diligence goes awry with some of these real estate professionals that are trying to get in the business or in the business? What did you walk away with where you squint at yourself like hey man, that you need an attorney for that, or you need a CPA for that? Where did you see that pop up in the discussion?
Right. One of them was a land trust question that you got. Hey,
Yeah.
can I do it in a land trust? And generally, you would have to dissolve that land trust in order to get a loan in and out of the land trust. A lot of it was some people just wanted to avoid putting documents together, and whether they have them or not, and how to get things with no money. That was some of the things that I saw going on, because a lot of people have been told, hey, you could do this with absolutely no money out of pocket, which I guess there's potential to do it, but I mean those opportunities are not frequent.
I've spent more money on real estate than anything I've ever spent money on. I would love the idea of 100% financing, but I don't live in the land of make believe. I don't have unicorns and I don't have leprechauns in my stable. And it just astonishes me where people think they rightly deserve 100% financing, discounts on cost to close, first deal, never done a deal before. Why do they feel compelled that they can do all this without the proper LLC documentation? You say, hey, I need this, this, and this, and they're like, oh, I don't have all that. I'm like, well, and you're not closing a loan in the commercial veil. Where is the miss? Is it true financial literacy? Is it just ignorance? Is it incompetence? Is it just bad information being put out there on social media buckets, Joe? What do you think?
No, I definitely think the social media has plays the main role there, right? Um, social media, you'll have these people on social media, mostly younger generation people who will rent like a Ferrari and say, hey, this is what I did with no money down, or they'll go in front of a property that they don't really own and say that they own it, and have all the nice flashy things, which really attracts all the viewers, and people start believing that stuff. Um, there is possibility of no money down happening, but I mean, it's not the norm, right?
Yeah.
And when you're going to go against the norm of no money down, having no money in the deal, and putting other people's money at risk, that's really far and few between, especially if you have zero experience.
Yeah.
I'll go to the example of the two 20-year-olds that told me they were going to do large multifamily acquisitions, and they live in their mother's basement. Who's going to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars when you have zero experience? but they believe that they could do that, and some of them spend tens of thousands of dollars in courses, which I would use as a down payment on a property. But they've done that.
So conducting due diligence is a standard protocol when considering whether to acquire a business or merging a business or buying real estate. There's certain things that need to be performed by licensed professionals: research, background checks, contingencies, um, different clauses to maybe get you out of a deal, say, or to be able to walk away if the circumstances don't present themselves correctly. Obviously, when it comes to real estate, a really good title agency that's going to do a solid title report, maybe a requirement of a survey if necessary, understanding entitlements in the more the federal, state, or local entitlement level. Environmental hazards. I was part of an environmental scenario with a mixed-use property that the client had to walk away and recover $100,000 deposit. Really looking and scrutinizing the leases if they're in place to a turnkey or stabilized property. Are these leases good? Do they read well in the sense of the tenant getting, if you have to remove the tenant, what are the circumstances there? We were involved with a 20 unit down in Atlantic City, and I don't know if you're very familiar with Atlantic City, but Atlantic City, very tough to evict somebody right now. Okay, and there's rent control in place. You just can't remove somebody. So you really need to review that lease to see how that's set up. Is there any pending or threatened actions against the property or the individual trying to sell the property? You might there could be other lingering items out there. Understanding contracts, insurance, and utilities to the subject property, making sure you have a very true physical inspection walkthrough. Don't do something sight unseen. These are some thoughts to add to due diligence, property, people, and paperwork. Good morning, Anna. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion this morning. Due diligence, property, people, and paperwork.
Good morning. Good morning. It was interesting when you first asked the question, why would people believe that? And then I thought the deeper question would be, why would anyone want to market to people to believe that? Like me as a salesperson, so I'm a realtor, listing specialist, and investor here in Chester County, Pennsylvania. Now, if I'm going to spend any marketing dollars to attract any one type of consumer, it's likely to be for listings, right? For sellers, because we don't have any inventory and sellers have the equity and they can do something. Like, I don't even know in this day and age, would I even spend a dime marketing to buyers when there isn't much to sell them, right? Like, obviously the quicker execution would be for a listing. So why would I market to people who don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of and tell them that they can buy homes with no money down? But then whomever was speaking after you answered the question, because I'm going to sell them a course, right? Like, oh, got it, right? So bottom of the barrel, find the lowest denominator and try to sell them something on a dream of an idea that, they'll get something else. So I guess that would be the reason to market to those people. But, people believe what they want to believe. And I just thought that was interesting.
So, Anna, your thoughts to the lawsuits that are looming around NAR and all the associations. Obviously, you're doing your due diligence as a licensed realtor and realizing that listing is the play right now instead of being a buyer agent. What's your thoughts on the lawsuit when it comes that? How does that impact due diligence, property, people, and paperwork in your world?
It's about friggin' time. I mean, don't get me wrong. Do I like the negativity around our association and who we are and what we are, like as if we needed that? No. However, we can continue to argue we did nothing wrong, and I won't say here what it is exactly I feel that we did or didn't do wrong. Not the point. The reality is there is a lot that should be different. There is a lot more transparency required, a hell of a lot more education and guidance. Yet, we're licensed salespeople. And I think even there, start there and change the title. Because yes, I'm not making a dime until I sell you something, right? Yet, the fiduciary in our code of ethics and how it's all designed, I truly see what we do, or at least the best of us, what we do is that we are advisors, that we guide you and educate you and what have you. But from where I stand with regards to providing transparency to a consumer, it's unfortunate, but in reality, it's necessary. I think we were behaving badly, we as a whole, right, with the lack of transparency and worrying about our needs above those of the client.
So, Anna, you've been in the business a little bit. I want to come back at you with this. So, a little bit like myself, what's your thoughts on all the layers of realtor associations and then the National Association of Realtor with AI and technology literally moving in at rapid speed? Do you think there's going to be necessary layers of all this, these different boxes of organizations to control real estate agents at this point for due diligence and paperwork and things of that nature? Or do you think there's just going to be one almighty organization at the end of the day in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, if I had a crystal ball. Here's the reality. And so I run a room, the transparent agents. So we talk to agents all over the countries for that matter. I continue to be baffled by the lack of role and responsibility that the average realtor has in many states. Now, I'm not saying that Pennsylvania is doing it right. I only know what I know, and here is where I practice. Yet, we are a title state, and we, the realtor, are primarily responsible for all things, most things, right? Where, for an example, I work with a seller or buyer for that matter. I'm responsible to provide them an estimate of cost. Yet I have my friends here in real estate in other states. That's not their job. The loan officer does it, right? We negotiate contracts from beginning to end. Other agents are like, that's not my job. The attorney does it. And so then I wonder, as a realtor, okay, you've been defending your compensation and you are baffled by why consumers feel that you're overpaid. I, as a fellow realtor, will be honest with you, I'm pretty freaking baffled too. I mean, you've basically reduced the industry to being an Uber driver with an e-key and don't understand why you're not getting paid a gazillion dollars to do the thing that you do. So I think to answer your question, I think first we have to all get on the same page of what roles and responsibilities truly are that of a realtor, and then have an association that is putting the needs of the consumers and their association first and not their own. Like, here's the thing. How do you have an association, a national association that is not a corporation? They don't sell anything. They don't do anything, right? They are just overseeing what it is that we do. But how do you have that where the CEO makes, a couple of $1 million a year for that role? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Right off the bat, just by design, if you're not running a corporation making a couple of $1 million a year, and fine, that makes sense to me. But in an association that oversees what realtor does, that there should be that much money put out for the high level employees, and then ridiculous amount of money put out for other avenues that just don't seem to make sense. So I think I actually went off on a tangent.
No, it's okay. I wanted to get a raw opinion of it. I feel personally, Anna, that there's too many layers. There's too many. Okay, you have the state of Pennsylvania. You have the state of Pennsylvania, and you have like 25 realtor associations, and then you got the state association, and then you got the national association. With AI and modern technology and all this other things that are coming into place, basically contracting a lot of these industries, such as title, such as insurance, such as real estate, such as lending. Everything's getting very consolidated. There's a massive attrition, and hopefully the talent rises above that attrition and the lesser competent individuals just leave the industry, which is the necessary evil. My concern is all these contractions in these moves right now going to help the benefit of the investor? Because this is really an investor discussion here, where it's nice to say that we work with home buyers, but I don't. I have no passion for it. I'm a commercial lender. My whole passion is about working with real estate investors. How will this impact the due diligence of a real estate investor that doesn't want to get licensed, wants to depend on a power team, the real estate agent, the title agent, the appraiser? How many people want to get around appraisals is absolutely amazing. And that whole industry is reconfiguring in front of our eyes with AMCs and who to hire and who to allow to bring in. There's so many moving parts there as well. Where does the due diligence start and begin with that real estate investor identifying an opportunity for themselves, and who are the initial people that they need to put together? Can they do it all by themselves at this point? I know Joe will say yes in some of those circumstances, but at the end of the day, there's still licensed and certified professionals that need to get to the closing table for the non-licensed real estate investor. And then for the real estate agent, there's no money in being a buyer agent. You're chasing a wild chicken. There's just not enough money in there. You'll starve to death if you don't go after the listings with a very tight inventory. Even though days on the market are very stagnant and expanding, I think it's a unique opportunity for a very strong listing agent to go out there and identify opportunities.
Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
I'm like, all right, I get it. Here's what I think should happen. First, there is no actual way for a consumer to distinguish between one level of a realtor and their capability, and even what it is that they specialize in. Where I think this should go now, as much as we all hate attorneys right now and the lawsuits and everything else, right? Yet, if you look at how the structure of a law firm is, you as a consumer walk in, you know who the partners are, right? You know who the associates are. They're labeled by 1 year level, 2 year, right? Partners, associates, junior associates, all the things. And they have specific parts of the law that they specialize in, whether you're looking for a divorce attorney, right? Defense attorney, whatever. Again, and it's understood. And when you initially meet with them, there is a retainer. There is an understanding, right? Of here's what's going to happen. Here's how it's going to happen. And here is what it's going to cost for my service. I think that if we became more of that liking, a consumer would understand that I was either trying to practice on you, right? Doing my first commercial deal or something, or I am the commercial expert, and more specifically pertaining to multi-units or restaurants or leases, whatever it may be, that there was a transparent understanding of what type of realtor you are, just as there is with what type of an attorney you are. I think that's where it should lead to.
Thank you, Anna. We'll do a quick reset. This is the Creative Birth Strategy House here on Clubhouse. We're also live on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. We want to thank our sponsors, Percatech, Realty 411, MB Capital, and Abstract National. We have national events in Denver and Philadelphia this spring coming up, one in March in Denver and one in Philadelphia in April. You could always reach out to one of us to register and be part of that growth with us. We're doing educational speaking engagements throughout the country. We're providing continuing education credits for licensed real estate agents in every state in the country to understand and navigate through asset-based lending. And we're offering marketing video work for you and your business through the Creative Birth Strategy podcast. We're now in the double digit episodes of Creative Birth Strategies. We're having hundreds and hundreds of downloads a week. So we really enjoy the time we're having with people, building relationships, growing out strategy, and coming up with educational subjects every Saturday morning, 8 a.m., and every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. And again, some essential due diligence items for real estate transactions. Understand your marketplace, doing your homework, understanding lending. If you're financing, expect an appraisal. Have the property inspected, at least from a very good licensed GC, but I would say also double that and get a home inspector to quantify what the GC is coming up with. And I would suggest that. And there's some other things you want to keep in mind. Wood destroying organisms, lead-based paint inspection, which is coming around really hot and heavy in a lot of the urban cities throughout the country. Radon gas inspection, defective drywall inspection. Is the property eligible for insurance? Like homeowners insurance, dwelling insurance, empty or vacant property insurance. You need to understand these things. Understanding title insurance. Is it an HOA? Is it a townhome? Is it a condo? Understanding what the questionnaire looks like for a condo association. If you're buying, you're going to get into the condo environment. And understanding a due diligence period. Buying rights during due diligence period, understanding that as well. Good morning, Justin. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion this morning. Due diligence, property, people, and paperwork.
Good morning, Joe. Justin Jefferson. I'm in the Southern Louisiana market currently. Been a licensed agent for since 2011, so quite a bit of time. And but I've also been an investor more than half of that time as the priority, flipped several houses, and done a bunch of stuff. And now I'm getting into some new construction. So that's just where I'm at. But I've heard a lot of great information being shared this morning. The type of information I know you like, Joe, that we can learn from and put on repeat. My opinion this morning on due diligence and property and paperwork, people and paperwork, is just that, first of all, let me start with due diligence, and I'll be brief on all of these things. For due diligence time, I think I mentioned this maybe last week, Joe. I like to use the similar metrics, just to sum it up, as someone would use for a debt service coverage loan, right? I'm not trying to, overuse your phrase in here, but I am trying to paint a quick picture for people to say, how does this property produce, right? What's its cash flow, right? What are you looking to pay for it? What's the risk factor? I believe Tim or Joseph I think it was Joseph, was talking about a property he was looking at and got some inaccurate information on the rent rolls. Well, the prime example of due diligence, right? You need to, had he gone forward and not pressed them to produce what they needed to produce, he could have been in a bad situation. You mentioned something earlier, Joe, as to why you think some of these, why people are gravitating towards a quote unquote no money down, or they want to see how little they can bring to the table and borrow money from you. I do believe a lot of that has to do with social media, but I also and this is, I never mind using myself as an example in my weak points, but I do believe, like I look back at my beginner self, my first time flipping a house and stuff like that, I believe those people are being led with anxiety and emotion, and they're allowing certain things to slide, right, that they think they can fix up later on, or that they think they can make up later on based on other misinformation they've heard. So I think that's a problem. And being in a room with serious individuals who earn the right of to be on this earth with gray hair, right, and have been in this industry, for multiple cycles, those are the rooms you need to be in. You do need to go to your RIAs so that you can get the accurate information, so you can do proper due diligence. Learn to get your numbers right, and make sure that your paperwork is right so that you can be approved for a loan. You cannot play this game if your paperwork isn't right. You have to have you have to go into any establishment with all your T's crossed and I's dotted. And then, stop listening to folks who made it without having those things put together and hoping that you'll be able to slide past the rule. Be the best, right? Be your best version of yourself when you present yourself to a bank. Uh, Try to select properties with the best metrics, and those are my thoughts, Joe. I think the mentality is really a setback for a lot of beginners. Uh, that's what I think.
Justin, thank you. And what I can add to that is I am seeing non-transactional professionals, I'll call them, okay, that are in the business that don't have enough length of time experience in the field to understand what's going on in this market right now. Okay, they're just going through the process. It's very difficult for somebody that has not been through multiple economic changes and own real estate themselves to truly understand and explain to somebody that's an investor how to make those next steps. Putting together a true extensive due diligence team, someone that can look at comps and understand what the completed value of the property is, depending on what type of rental stage that you're going to keep it at. Is it at A, B, C, D, E, F neighborhood? Looking at comparing price per square foot with the cost to build comparatively to renovation, understanding historical prices in the area, understanding the type of neighborhood that you're buying in. Like when I sat down with 3 investors on Friday for lunch, I said, when's the last time you've gone to a neighborhood association where your 19 properties are at? When's the last time you've gone to a neighborhood community event where they're coming together as a community for updating the neighborhood? They're like, what are those? They didn't even know what I was talking about. They were like lost. And I looked them up for them, and they're going to go to them. I said, that's your best networking event. You have 19 properties in these 2 specific neighborhoods. Why aren't you going there to identify people to be part of your team? And also understanding tenant buyer profile of that neighborhood, understanding the employers that are nearby, understanding transportation and traffic nearby, understanding also the amenities in the surrounding neighborhood, in the immediate neighborhood. And most important, if you're looking at other settings like suburban or rural markets as well, what are the school ratings and how that's going to impact a tenant with children? Good morning, Ellis. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts toward discussion this morning. Due diligence, property, people, and paperwork.
Thanks, Joseph. Good morning, everybody. My name is Ellis San Jose. I'm based out of Southern California. I'm a full-time investor. Been doing this for about 3 decades now. I also am a guest lecturer at UCLA where I introduce the concept of investing in debt or note investing. My specific niche in real estate for the last 10 years or so has been in identifying properties that have title issues, title challenges, or what I call orphaned assets. Curiously, it was, or serendipitously, I came across that niche because of learning the importance of due diligence and understanding title. I find that I really get a lot of satisfaction at going above and beyond in due diligence because there's a lot of things that people kind of gloss over. I remember, just if I could share a story, I remember I was buying a multi-unit property and it was very high occupancy. And I said, well, this is good. And then what I did was I did a skip trace of that property to see how long those people had been in there, because I had some, I call it spider sensors, that I knew something was up, and found out that most of the people had just been in there just for a few months. So this was basically the fog the mirror type of thing, or just to make it look like it had steady occupancy when it was a very high turnover building. So going above and beyond is very, very important in this game of real estate, because it's an old Reagan thing, right? It's trust but verify. So I've learned to, kind of abide by that with everything I do, is that you want to trust what people tell you, but you also want to have the satisfaction of having the documentation and your own nose to make sure that it pans out. So, being a investor, and I do some specific type of lending as well, I want to make sure that I get a title a clear picture of title, and that's actually been one of my best investments is understanding title, because there's things that are missed, and that can really prevent a property from being fully valued because there are issues with title, other liens, etc. And also doing due diligence on people. Whenever I partner up with people, or if I'm going to have a financial connection with somebody, I always do a background check, and that has always panned out to saving me from big disasters. I didn't do that earlier in my career, and it didn't work out so well. So that was something I've learned is, before you associate with somebody financially, you want to find out everything there is that's going on in their background, because they could have a very good marketing department, but in the background, they've got judgments, they've got lawsuits, etc. So I think this is a terrific subject to introduce to investors, no matter where they are in their journey.
Thank you, Ellis. And due diligence has been around a long time. It's been more emphasized in the commercial landscape for the multifamily environment than the single family through four family, but I think it's just as important. Some of the points that Ellis brought up, obviously understanding the current title policy of the property, understanding, if there's renovation or construction involvement, understanding development and construction plans, including as-built, architectural, engineering, and other relevant plans. Getting a property condition report, property tax bills within the last 3 years, which includes special assessments and incentives. There's a lot of tax abatements that fly around throughout the country. You need to understand those. Understanding energy and utility bills from the past prior 2 years. Capital expenditures that have been spent for the last 24 months. Understanding that, maybe even looking at a tax return filed on behalf of the property in the past year to see if things are matching up. Seeing if there's any recent past appraisals on the property. Not saying they're going to be completely relevant, but there's going to be details in there. Doing a little due diligence in the insurance policies that are currently in place, as well as any filed claims. Review up-to-date rent roll, including expenses, ancillary tenant expenses such as security deposits, real estate taxes, and common area maintenance billings. Review service contracts to determine if cancellation occurs, penalty expenses. Understanding demographic research and analysis of the surrounding area. Perform a competitive analysis, comparing selling price against deal comps from the similar opportunities. Comparing lease financials against similar deals. Performing a year-over-year cash flow analysis. Good morning, Jill. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to a discussion this morning. Due diligence, property, people, and paperwork.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, everybody. Jill Plackney, I'm a licensed agent and investor in the state of Missouri. Also the director of the Genesis Community for Real Estate Wealth Mentoring. I love this topic. And I think, all the things that Ellis said, absolutely. And I'm sure that the other comments that I've missed so far have been just as valuable. But gosh, I encounter a lot of people, particularly new to home ownership or new to investing, that just are afraid to say that they don't know something or they don't understand something or they aren't, they kind of feel like there's some, I don't know. I don't know what the block is, but if anyone is listening and you hesitate ever to, ask questions about the paperwork that you're signing or fully understand the contract, that may be difficult for a layperson to read because it's a bunch of legalese, ask those questions. Don't hesitate to call the title company and ask specific questions about things you don't understand. That doesn't make you look stupid. That makes you look like you're smart at business. I can't tell you.
It's like a man asking for directions.
It is. It so is. And I can't tell you how many people that have papers that are laid in front of them at close that they have never seen before. And they just sign. They have no idea what it's about. And they just sign. They don't ask. They don't read. They just sign. Don't be that person. Understand all of your contract paperwork. Like I've heard already, vet your people, ask for references, check those things out. Don't just take people at their word. I learned that lesson the very hard way with my first contractor experience, or really my second contractor experience was pretty horrible. My first one was pretty good, and I got kind of relaxed in my process that I had started with, and the next one didn't go so well. So yeah, make sure you vet your people and paperwork, and of course, yeah, property inspections and all those things are so important. But I would say just slow down and understand the process, especially if it's your first or second time, and take your time to learn it, because then you'll know it next time. That's what I have to add. And yeah, man, just stop and ask directions so you can get where you're going.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate the insight. Due diligence when it comes to multifamily is more emphasized, obviously, because these are bigger acquisitions. But the importance is a single family through four families, nothing to sneeze at. Okay, you really need to treat yourself that one day, hey, I'm looking at 1 through 4 units right now. But one day I'm going to look at an 100 unit, or I'm going to look at a 50 unit, and you got to go through the same due diligence. People naturally in the real estate space want to try to do some shortcuts. And honestly, there's no shortcuts in success. So you have to keep whittling away. You don't have to go into analysis paralysis, but there's certain standard items that you should know about your property. And in the class that I had yesterday with about 40 people in the room, I made it very clear you need to be proficient to be efficient in understanding the property that you're buying. You need to take it seriously. If you're buying a rehab property, a property that needs to be rehabbed, either you're going to stabilize it or you're going to flip the property. I would, at this point in the market, I would make sure both scenarios work. If you're going to buy something thinking you're going to fix to flip the property, you better understand if you can't sell the property with timing, can you rent that property and still support the overhead of leverage of the property that you created to renovate that property and stabilize it? Okay, so you need to understand some factors. How much are you buying it for? What are the repair costs? What's the after repair value? What's the estimated market rent? What are the yearly taxes? Do you think the taxes are going to go up based on the permits that are being pulled on the subject property? You got to give yourself that room of contingency. Understanding builders risk and understanding long-term insurance policy is going to be very important, because builder's risk is where you're buying and renovating the property. And then there's obviously the stabilized environment. Once you stabilize property, if it's vacant, you're still paying vacant insurance policy. So you really need to understand that whole timing. And are you buying the property based on the renovation timelines to hit the market at the right time? So think about that. If I'm buying a property that needs $100,000 worth of renovation today, that property is not going to be on the market, most likely, because the average renovation loan to get completed, whether for refinance or property to sell, the average timeline is 7 months right now. So even if you get that property done in 4 to 6 months, that property is not hitting the market technically till almost September, if everything goes perfect. Does that property, based on the values you're coming up with, make sense for that fall market? How are rates looking like based on the market in your area? What type of person is buying that property, and what type of property person would rent that property? So you really need to do a little due diligence, whether you surround yourself with an investor-friendly real estate agent or you're the agent themselves buying the investment property. These are steps that you need to understand. Or do you have the right reserves for repair costs on that fixed to rent, fixed to flip, up and above your down payment on the purchase side, since the lender is providing 100% financing on the construction rehab side? These are some basic questions that you need to ask yourself with your due diligence team. James, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to the discussion this morning: due diligence, property, people, and paperwork. James going once. James going twice. We'll come back to James. Timothy, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to a discussion this morning: due diligence, property, people, and paperwork. Can anybody hear me? Hello? Hello? think I'm stuck here. Hello? Hold on one second. We have a little malfunction. See if we can fix this. I think we're having a little slight malfunction here. We'll be able to get out of this. I'm going to reset this. Cancel. Hold on 1 second. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to have to reset the phone. Hold on 1 second here. Reset. Give me 1 minute, guys. We're having a slight malfunction. We'll reset the phone and get ourselves back online. Hold on 1 second here. Give me 1 minute. Minor interruption, but that happens with podcasting at time to time. Hopefully I'll be able to get back on. But my phone froze, and nobody could hear me. So I'm going to get back on this in just a quick second. Time kills deals, as we know, but we're going to move as quickly as we can, allow our thumb to move as quick as we could. And let's get back into this here. Okay, hold on 1 second. And
pretty well. I taught a lot of survival tactics in the military, jump school in the military, and as well as taught information systems at some of the local colleges. And one of the first things I would say, actually, especially in the colleges, so I'm dealing with adult students, sometimes I'm dealing with evening students. Don't be afraid to ask a question. Please ask it. The dumbest question in the room is the one that's never asked. Never get your answers. So, Joseph, I'm going to turn the mic back to you because it looks like you're back on. Do you want to try a sound check real quick?
yeah, sound check. Are we all back and going here?
Gotcha, Joseph.
Oh boy, I was talking to myself for a few minutes. It was a very interesting conversation.
Yep. So again, remind everyone, Joseph, our host with the most, will be on with us at 8 p.m. With Garrett Rhodes and myself to discuss finance, and look forward to seeing some of you there. Again, Timothy Doyle with Steel Hill Properties out here in the Greater Lehigh Valley. Remember, if you can't buy it, steal it.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you very much. Tim's been a great colleague and associate of mine. Came to our first Philadelphia Realty 411 event. Hopefully he'll be able to come back with his wife at the next one, which is April 12th and 13th. Great event at the Mummery Museum this year. We're going to have our luncheon, mastermind, and happy hour and dinners at the Moonshine Philly right down the block. Parking is extremely ample. We are the only house here on Clubhouse that offers a podcast for marketing purposes, educational tools and strategies, live events throughout the country, Denver, Philadelphia, LA, California, in different areas as well. And the exposure of getting your business exposed in a podcast setting to market it out there. So again, guys, we're here. We've been here several years with Clubhouse. We want to thank them for putting this all together and allowing us to provide a consistent theme of education every Saturday morning, 8 a.m. and every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. And our discussion this morning is due diligence, property, people, and paperwork. Good morning, James. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion, due diligence, property, people, and paperwork.
Good day, James Stout here. I'm an investor from Berks County, Pennsylvania, primarily fix and flip investor. So my due diligence that I can do, I'm didn't hear anything about due diligence on off-market properties, which is what I'm dealing with nowadays. So I'd be interested to hear if any folks have tactics for that, because boy, it moves really quick and you got to make a decision. So what we've been doing is do as many visits as we can to and sharpen our pencil for a rehab estimate and get out there on MLSs and other places to, try to get the best ARV we can. I wonder about the timing. Part of the due diligence would be like a septic system thing, or that's our last couple of properties we worked at. We didn't want to buy a place that had a collapsed sewer main or the one we're working on now has a septic system. So trying to arrange for a flow test, and the folks that are doing off-market deals aren't as responsive for due diligence stuff. So, I
Well,
guess
not
maybe
always, James, because I will say 30% of my business is off market. And if you're buying one of my off market listings, almost always they are pre-inspected, including hydraulic load tests for septic systems, as well as moisture tests for stucco homes.
that's awesome, Anna. I have to exchange some information so I can get a line on some of your deals. That sounds awesome. So that's what I was thinking about. I mean, it makes perfect sense when you have time to you have time in between when you've put in an offer, and you got maybe wait to do stuff for you're waiting for financing to be finalized and the title work. But some of these off market things, it seems like you need an answer now or you're not getting it. So
And outlining
thinking about
those, specifying those timeline restrictions in your contract is a great idea too.
So, James, what are some pros and cons for buyers looking to buy off-market deals? Obviously, the exclusivity you're given when the property is off market, and in certain case, means that you have extra time to do some due diligence, right? Unless it's a wholesale deal and the hourglass is moving rather quickly. The other side of the situation is that the owner may say, before I put this property on the market, you have 2 weeks or 30 days to make your decision, right? So sometimes that flip side is that you may have to a little less time as a result that somebody's giving you a certain period of time before they can go to the market. Again, that is usually associated with the relationship that you may have, whether whether it's with the owner, the broker, the attorney, a friendly relationship where they know you have a high certainty to close, providing a free look at that would normally require you to enter a contract and put down a money deposit. So off-market transactions tend to be a little friendlier, could be a little adversarial depending on the circumstances, if there's family involved. But again, those are based on the fact that there's a relationship. Typically, you're known as someone who can close, or your friend, or you have prior business dealings with the person who's selling. So it's kind of it should be a friendly court for the most part. So like the deal that you and I priced out, James, was that an off-market deal or was that something on the MLS?
that's actually something on the MLS.
Okay.
But it's an as-is deal, and apparently there's you never know I don't know what to believe sometimes when an agent, we have lots of people looking at it. Well, it's still, they reduced the price pretty good. So we're still.
Yet I'll go in showing time and see completely available, no showing scheduled. And, like agents are.
So you're saying, Anna, listing agents lie?
He did admit to having an interest in the property himself.
Okay.
So I'm taking everything he says with a grain of salt.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, you're going to have some fabrication with some listing agents, and that happens. That's part of the business. But listen, you're out there digging foxholes and making things happen. You have a general contractor as a business partner. You're doing all the underwriting with him, and you couldn't assemble a better team in what you're doing in the Lehigh Valley market. Even if you get out to the Berks County market or Schuylkill County market, you're still staying very focused on identifying fix to flips. You're also, what I found, James, based on our conversation, you are looking at the consideration, if you had to hold it, does the property support a rental scenario year one, if need be? And you've done that as well as part of your due diligence. So, and I ran the numbers with you. It was a great deal. I think we came in at like 10% and change on the interest only on the fixed to rent or fixed to flip money. Origination was like 1.5 at best, and the numbers worked really well, right?
Yeah.
So I sometimes forget about letting people know who I am and what I do. My name is Joseph Scarice. I'm the head of origination at Lendmark Capital, one of the largest hedge funds in the asset-based lending space, 1 through 4 units, small balance, 5 through 25. Fixed to rent, fixed to flip, new construction, mixed use, with a multifamily residential to commercial blend. And we're now pulling money off of our balance sheet very inexpensively. I'm locking rates right now on long-term refinance at sub 7%, 30-year fixed, 10-year interest only, 5 or 7, 10-1 ARM. up to 80% loan to value based on a debt service coverage ratio above 0.80. On the construction side, we can go up to 90% on the purchase, 100% on the construction, up to 75% loan to value on R. Now, this is all based on very basic questions that can easily be answered. What is your experience? How many rehabs you've completed in the last 48 months? How many fix and flips you've completed in the last 48 months? How much new construction you've completed in the last 48 months? But another question we ask, how many transactions have you been involved with as a third-party expert completed in the last 48 months? We now count that as experience. We look at a credit score above 660. Preferably, we like to see 680 and above, but 660 we can go as low as, because people get into circumstances with their credit. Please do everything through your LLC. That is the best due diligence advice I can give today, is do everything. If you're going to be a real estate investor and you're going to take this business extremely seriously, do everything through your LLC and your corporate veil. Talk to your accountant. Yes, hire an accountant. You're not a CPA. Don't think you're a CPA. You're not an attorney. Don't think you're an attorney. Hire these professional services that have been vetted, whether at a real estate investors association meeting, at a zoning meeting, an introduction by a fellow active transactional real estate professional that you can trust with giving advice. Good morning, Jim. Welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning. Due diligence, property, people, and paperwork. And please update us on the Mile High Summit.
You got it, brother. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Hope everybody's having a sensational Sunday morning. I'm looking out the window. The sun's out here in Colorado, and I'm going to be getting out today to enjoying it because it was beautiful yesterday. Hey, I'm in Denver. I own 2 meetup groups. One is Realty Investor Group, RIG, and I also co-own Invest Success, which we host. We're a 12-month coaching and mentoring program, very hands-on, face-to-face, and we teach here in the Denver area. Then we host one of the largest and longest running meetup groups, the John Fisher's Breakfast Club. It's been running for 20 years. We can have up to 85 people in the room. We limit it to 85 because every meeting we want to hear from every person present, give them mic time and hear from what they do. Due diligence. Oh my goodness, we could spend a couple of hours on this. We don't start a breakfast club. I don't start a RIG meeting without talking about due diligence. We go in, we're not lawyers, we're not CPAs, and we cannot validate any deal or persons. Where do we start? Before you even start looking for a property, before you start talking to people about deals, I've heard today, and I've heard on other people that said, don't pay any money for education. Just take a bunch of money and throw it on the property. If you're just going to throw away money that quick, give it to me, and I will put it to good use. If you have no education and you go and put a serious amount of money down on the property, you're almost guaranteed to lose that money. Get an education. And I said earlier, there is some good stuff on YouTube, but the majority of it is pure crap. It's crap. So be careful on YouTube. But get an education. Get your paperwork down before you start talking to anybody. Get with an investor friendly and a CPA that understands the creative financing, the deals we make, and make sure your taxes are set up correctly. Get with a lawyer. If you're going to be a landlord, make sure those leases are up to date with the current local laws. Here in Colorado, they change almost yearly. They're constantly in change. Make sure your paperwork is set up front correctly. We've been on Clubhouse and people come in and is like, hey, I just turned my house into a rental. I'm a new landlord. When can I change my contract? Because I look and I'm not protected. It's like, well, how long was your lease? He goes, 12 months. It's like, you can change your contract in 12 months. In the meantime, you better be praying and hoping and hoping karma's with you. Get educated, get your stuff set up before. Properties, due diligence on properties, that's almost easy. You can get onto Zillow and you can find the history there. You go to property records, and one may not be the sole answer for you, because we did a property tour yesterday with our students, and everybody went there with a certain ARV in mind because they went to one website and it said 1,900 square feet up, something like that. Well, we get to the house and guess what? They had a basement. The basement wasn't listed. One of the guys said he did find the basement listed because I think he went to another website, maybe Public Records. But property due diligence is easy, easy, easy. You can get on there. You can find history of who bought it. And if you got access to an agent, they can get in there and find even deeper notes of what's going on in that house, what's been repaired, what's under warranty and stuff like that. So the property's fairly easy. People, that's where it gets interesting. Somebody mentioned doing background checks. That's possible, but and I am biased. I host 4 meetups a month. Get into your local meetup group, and if there's several in the area, go to all of them. You'll see certain faces of the 10 multiple meetings. When somebody stands up in front of the group and goes, "Hey, I'm an investor. I've done 20 flips. I need money. I'm looking for private lenders." Ask around that group. Chances are there's people in the group that know that person. And they can say that person is rock solid. I would lend money to them at any time. Or in our case, there's a certain individual making the rounds, always up at the mic. And people you see, I look around, I see people shaking their head going, no. People are not all that they say when they stand up to a mic. So ask around about the people, but do your due diligence. Don't pull a trigger on anything until you verify your paperwork's ready. The people you're dealing with are above board. They get and ask them straight up. Okay, who have you dealt with before? I want to talk to the people that you have talked or done deals with. I want to see your properties that you fix. I want to see results. And contact those people and say, hey, do you know Joe Bob Billy? Is he good? Is he bad? What's the word? And trust me, if he's bad, you'll hear about it. But do your due diligence. Do your due diligence. Do your due diligence. And the great Mile High Real Estate Investor Summit. 11 days, Joe. 11 days away. We're getting close. We've got one speaking slot that's not allocated, but we've got like 3 people fighting over it. We've got 30 vendors, 30 speakers. It's going to be multiple subjects, from not just doing fix and flips and stuff like that, but also, okay, you've got your money. How can I use my self-directed IRA to invest? Or once you get deals going, hey, I want to flip up, upgrade. How do I do a 1031 exchange? A lot of short-term, mid-term stuff coming up. It's going to be a great weekend. Friday, Saturday, and so we're going to kick it off with a party Thursday night, Friday all day, Friday and Saturday speakers, lunches included. Sunday be a bus tour. So the link is at the top of the chat. Use the code IS50 and you can save $50 on your tickets. That ends March 1st, 11 days out. Not too late for all of you guys across the country to come, because we do have people from Texas, Minnesota, all over the great country coming in to join us. You should too. Back at you, Joe.
Thanks, Jim. Again, Creative Bird Strategies has grown into such a diverse house, starting in Clubhouse. We are a podcast now live. We are a marketing machine with live events throughout the country, nationally. We're providing educational tools, educational sources, great vetted moderators here every Saturday morning, 8 a.m., every Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Joseph, your final thoughts and outro to our discussion this morning: due diligence, property, people, and paperwork.
Joe, great room, great information as always. Really good stuff from all the contributors. And the comment that the individual said that some people make you feel uncomfortable because the questions that you're asking are novice. Well, those are the people you shouldn't be doing business with. When it comes into deals and feel like you might be rushed into doing them, right? An individual mentioned that. Well, remember, you don't need to buy. The seller generally needs to sell. And I learned that from a stock investing class, right? You never see a buying frenzy. You see a selling frenzy when things are going south. You never see people, oh no, I have to hurry up and buy this stock. The same thing goes with a property. If you feel pressured, don't make the decision, because this is not something that you can get rid of quickly, right? You're married to it for a while. And if you buy it wrong, you're married to it possibly, I would say forever, but it could have a lot of implications to you. So just be mindful. I would tell you that this isn't rocket science. You just got to follow the numbers, use your common sense. If the hairs on the back of your neck are standing up, or you're getting some sort of funny feeling, listen to it and make sure that you're comfortable moving forward with the deal. Read everything, know what you're doing, ask all the questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. When you have hundreds of thousands of dollars at risk, everybody, I think they lose focus on that, right? Especially if they're just putting 20% down. Oh, I'm just putting $40,000 out of pocket for a $200,000 loan. You know, the remainder of that money is still at risk. So, and you're responsible for it. Even if you do a short sale, you'll get a 1099 at the end of the year for it. So, you have hundreds of thousands of dollars at risk. So, just be patient. Do your due diligence. Ask the questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. If someone's making you feel uncomfortable, fire them. That's all I got, Joe.
Thanks, Joseph. Please follow Creative Bird Strategies on all the social media sites. If you'd like to follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn under Joseph V. Scarice, or you can follow me on Facebook under Joseph V. Scarice as well. Be more than happy to. I post different types of articles and insightful strategy discussions daily. I write a couple articles a week. I'm very excited about the two presentations we're providing in Denver, one on real estate investor mindset, the other is understanding and navigating asset-based lending. I'll be discussing asset-based lending in Honeybrook, Pennsylvania this Thursday evening for an investors group. So if anybody's out that way, I'd love to see you there. It's free to attend. You just have to grab dinner or a drink. It starts promptly at 6:30. I'll be discussing for about 60 minutes, understanding asset-based lending and where it's going in the market right now. And thank you everyone for this morning for their engagement, their insight, their strategy. And my quote this morning to finish off the room: don't change so people will like you. Be yourself, and the right people will love you, the real you. Have a great Sunday morning. Take care of yourself. We'll be back Saturday and Sunday of next week, 8 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. Saturday and Sunday with two new great subjects. Thank you to our sponsors, Realty 411, Abstract National, Percatech, and MB Capital. This is Joseph Scarice, founder and host of Creative Bird Strategies. Everybody have a great Sunday morning. I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. And thank you.